Starting. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Destination Abroad. Today we're talking to Zoltan Varadi. Hello there.
Hello, thanks for having me on the channel.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So, I know that you have traveled far. You now live in England, and you live a location-independent lifestyle. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? First of all, how did it all start?
Yes, indeed. So in my early life, I had only one job, like the by the classic means of the word job. When I finished technical school, I went to technical school, and I was always interested in technology, and especially Unix systems and IT security. These were my favorite things to do in my spare time. And right after technical school, when I was 18, when I finished it, I went to apply for a job. And that job was a Unix specialist at a small company. And that small company was an interesting one. Just a couple of web developers and two owners of the firm. We worked for a number of interesting clients, actually, some governmental agencies and some bigger international companies. But the things started getting weird when the boss told me things like, "Oh, you're having a longer coffee break than I would like you to," and stuff like that. So weird things started happening. And one of these days, when he came back to me and said something similar, then my response was, "All right, then please print those papers I need to sign to go away from this company right now, as this is not my world." And this led me to start looking at other options, which are not related to bosses or so when you work for yourself, basically. I heard about the concept back then. This was a long time ago, as you might tell from my age. But this freelancing lifestyle wasn't so popular in Hungary. I lived in Hungary by that time, and this freelancing lifestyle wasn't that popular at all. So no one knew how that worked. No one knew what should one do when you want to be independent from everyone. And so this was the first really hard step, figuring it all out before the age of freelancers. So that was an interesting part of life. But then eventually turned out that I could I have like three options, basically. I can be a local freelancer who can go to companies locally and help them with their stuff, and then get paid as basically a contractor, which is quite straightforward. The second option was having my own company and gaining some clients, having some employees, and doing the stuff I would like to do it, how I would like to do it, not how someone else would like to do it. And the third option was becoming an international freelancer. And I tried them all, not necessarily in this order. So this is how it all started out.
So what was your first step when you realized that you don't want to work for someone? What did you do next? Did you stay in the country? Did you go somewhere else?
Yeah, at that stage, I stayed in the country. So that was a long time ago. And in Hungary, it wasn't so obvious that Europe is open by that time. So as you may know, Hungarian people don't think like that. So, for example, if you talk to someone from the US or from the UK or from Australia, for them, it's immediately obvious that you can travel just about anywhere in the world and do your thing if you want to, if you choose to. But in Hungary, the general public doesn't really think like that, because we are coming from a different era, from the communist era, where it was like, you need a visa to enter the next country, which is like 20 minutes by train.
Yeah, I can relate to this.
Travel through that country and travel to that other country where you will be able to spend only $50. That's it. And this was the general state of mind of the people who were in Hungary, so it wasn't immediately obvious that you can just travel just about anywhere. That's why I started as a local contractor to different smaller and bigger companies who were willing to pay for my hobby, let's say, as that was my hobby. As in my mind, I treated that as a hobby, and probably that was the reason for this discrepancy in the two things. Like, I'm doing my hobby, but then there's this guy who's telling me not to have a coffee break, and I'm like, So that's why that was the first step, basically, being a local contractor. It was interesting. Yeah.
How long ago was this? How many years ago?
Ooh, I was 18, 20-ish at the time. So it was 17 years ago.
I see. And when did you leave the country first, and what made you do it?
Well, first, for work, I think I just had a brief trip to Austria, as I had a client, a local client, like from this stage of my life, who worked in Germany and in Austria and Hungary as well at that time. And they just needed something in Austria, in their office in Austria as well. So I just traveled there first, but that was just a really short project. I suppose I spent only 3 weeks there the first time. And then the next one, when I left the country, was much, much later, when I started international freelancing online, so properly online, never meeting the client at all whatsoever. There are platforms to do this. I chose the one that was called Odesk back in the day. Now it's called Upwork. I worked and sometimes still work on that platform, as it's pretty straightforward, and you can get a decent selection of clients over there. Not just the, all right, I need this logo and blah, 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 blah type of work, but like real work as well. In fact, the 3 biggest clients I've ever worked with all came from Upwork. Interesting.
Nice. Sounds very good.
But yeah. So probably it was pure luck, or probably it was the communicate. I have a different style of communication when applying for a job. Like, I don't do the, okay, here are my references. Okay, this is my, like, this is what I did in the past. This is my education history and stuff like that. I just do, all right, I see you have this problem. I can solve it like this. Are you interested or not? This is my hourly rate. That's it. And if they like it, they will take me on, as these clients did. If they don't, then they just ignore it and go with the rest of the people who I suppose still do the old style of job application things on these platforms as well. So the next one, just to get back to your answering to your question, was a client called Coca-Cola Australia, and a marketing agency working with them. And they invited me to work locally on their projects. That was an interesting one. We designed a little embedded box into their vending machines in Australia, throughout the major cities of Australia, which provided Wi-Fi access locally. And if you bought a drink, it had a code, you typed in that code, and you could use the internet for X amount of time. That was a thing back then, as you didn't have this ubiquitous coverage of 4G and like Wi-Fi everywhere, and you have internet on your phone, so you were constantly hunting for Wi-Fi in major cities.
That's a very good way to make people buy Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything about Coca-Cola. So yeah, whatever.
So you had to move to Australia. Did they provide you an accommodation as well? Where did you live?
Yes. So the thing was, when we started the negotiation, so first we started working together on this platform, this Upwork thing, and I think it went on for like 9 months, I'm not sure. So we were building this system, and there were local people who were servicing it and installing it and doing the local things required. And I was working from Hungary. I was living in a lake house in Hungary somewhere, and I was working from there basically for Coca-Cola Australia. And then after that 9-10 months, they decided that they want to like have me there to train their staff how to properly install and maintain these little embedded thingies, embedded boxes. And then I said, all right, why not? Never been to your country, but I suppose I will need a visa and like stuff like that. And as the negotiations went on, it turned out that in the Australian market, if you bring in a contractor for a short-term job can be anything between a week and 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So not like 3 days or something like that, because you just don't go to Australia for 3 days. That's just jet lag. They said that, yeah, of course, we will pay for your accommodation, we will pay for your flights, and on top of that, what's your daily rate? And this is the norm in Australia. So in other parts of Europe, I didn't really experience this kind of flexibility from the clients. You always needed to fight with them a bit, like, all right, will you pay for my hotel, or what should happen, or do you have some accommodation you can provide to me, or how will this work? This was always a fight. With the Australian clients, not at all. Like they just said, all right, this will be your address. This is a service department in central Sydney, for example, like 3 blocks away from Darling Harbour, which is the most vibrant part of the city. So, and then there from the office to your accommodation, is it a problem? They asked. I remember being surprised. They asked, is that a problem if you need to walk 15 minutes to the office? Should we aim for something closer?
Oh,
I'm like,
how convenient.
Ooh. Like, and they were asking me if that's a problem. I'm not sure how old at the time, but it was quite surprising to me that they treat their contractors like that. So
I'd like to
very
be
different.
treated like that.
Yeah, definitely.
And I assume that you must have been good at English at this time, so you could organize all this in English, I assume.
Yeah, reasonably, I think so. I have 2 stories to share on this.
Okay.
The first story is just about the language and accents and all the things like that. So I've been learning English from the 3rd grade in school. That's that was a long time ago. I don't mind even calculating the difference between now and 3rd grade. So I started then, and I was very fortunate of having teachers from different countries. So I had native teachers from Scotland. I had a woman who lived 12 years in Canada, but at the same time was fluent in Hungarian as well. She was native to Hungary, but then moved to Canada for 12 years, and then came back and did these lessons. So I think I got most of my English skills from them at the time. And then my relatives had some friends from England and from the US who obviously didn't speak any Hungarian, but they were interesting people. So if I wanted to like know more about them or have a conversation with them, I needed to persuade myself to speak English to them. There's no other choice. And I think the breaking point happened with one of my clients when we had a meeting. I didn't know we have a meeting, but back in the day, I was a consultant in embedded systems. So then embedded system design consultant, basically. I worked for them in that role. as a contractor, of course. And you know, a consultant always travels in shirts and ties and very elegant. And they had a meeting, which I didn't know about, but the hardware supplier who was supplying part of the hardware I was working with came in for a big sales pitch. Like, they had this new type of processor in their motherboard, and they wanted to sell that. Basically, it was a good one, so it wasn't a pushy sales pitchy thingy, but it was a sales pitch whatsoever. And this guy, the guy who I worked most of the time with at that company, just came in and said, "All right, you look good. You have a tie on. Do you speak English?" And I said, "Yeah, reasonably well. All right, come with me." I thought it will be something like, "All right, we need to like read this documentation and we don't quite understand it, or here's this problem, let's solve it together," or something like that. But then it turned out that, all right, the lead of the meeting will be this guy, Zoltan, and let's start. I was like, "Who, me?" Like, "What's Zoltan?" And of course, this guy, the sales guy, said that, "All right, we can do this meeting in English, German, or Spanish, but if you can't speak any of those languages, I have a translator as well." I said,
Wow.
Okay, politically incorrect thoughts. And then, all right, let's start. And then I grabbed hold of my chair like this, and I started speaking to him in English in a business-ready accent and manner. And I think that was the breaking point when I realized that these people want to understand you. So if you try, they will make the effort of understanding you. And so he did. And from there, I think it's just going up and practicing more and not being afraid of speaking to people. So this was the first element, which I think led to here. But then came the surprise when I did all these negotiations and like agreeing on terms and doing the contract and okay. And I got on a plane. First time ever in my life, by the way. My first flight was to Sydney. Good choice. Not a good choice.
Very long.
Yeah, very long. It was 26 hours, which and only had one real break when you can get out of the plane. Yeah. So if you're flying anywhere, don't choose the longest ever flight which is available on the planet for your first one. That's my advice. So I landed in Sydney. It was like, whoa, beautiful sunrise. It was like 5 in the morning. My colleague came down for me to the airport. We just left, had a wonderful breakfast, and I arrived at 5:20 to the country. I had a short-term work visa, so no problems at all. This guy on the border was like, all right, welcome to Australia, and off you go. No visa processing thingy or nothing like that. So it was quite pleasant. Then we had this even more pleasant breakfast. And then he said that, all right, I will drop you off at the hotel, have a shower, and then the first meeting starts at 10. And I don't know, many of you might have flown more than 20 hours. After 20 hours of flight, the last thing you need is a meeting at 10.
You need to sleep.
Whatever, yes. No. It would have been a bad idea to sleep as the sun was out. So to fight jet lag, the easiest way to fight jet lag is be awake whenever the sun is up. That's it. And then it will go away in 2 days or probably 2.5 days. So there was this meeting at 10. We went to the hotel. It turned out that I can occupy the room at 11, which was great. So no shower. So I just quickly went to some public toilet, shower, changed the shirt, and went on straight to the meeting. on the other side of the table, there were 8 native Australians from Coca-Cola and different companies, different tech companies, who were basically against us. So it was one side, there's the client, the other side, there are these guys, and the third one is us pitching for taking on the project, or parts of better and bigger parts of the project we were talking about. And that was the most horrible experience of my life related to English, as they were all speaking native Australian. They were all speaking in slang. I was tired after a 20-hour flight. I didn't have a proper shower, and I was sat there with my colleague and trying to pitch against them, and I found it hard to understand them at all. And they didn't want to understand me at all, obviously, as they were against us. And they used their better English skills as an advantage. So their product and their solution was way worse technologically. And the only reason that was taken into the project was that I couldn't explain myself that clearly in Australian slang. So that was a bit of a pain back then. So this is the other breaking point. Yeah. This was the other breaking point in language.
I assume that that made you want to learn and speak even more and even better than before.
Well, it always was like that. So I enjoy learning languages. I don't learn too many languages, to be honest, but before we started on our journey, we thought we were moving to Wales. So I started learning Welsh, which is a Celtic language, so quite different from anything you might speak anyway. And I started learning that, for example. I enjoy these things. And on the other hand, or not on the other hand, like with that, I believe that speaking English in today's world, you need to either speak English or Chinese or both. Mm-hmm. If you want to do anything on the international market, you either need to speak English or Chinese. That's it. No other options. If you're not fluent in one of those languages, then you have lesser and lesser chances on the market, on the global marketplace, the worldwide marketplace, I think. So
yes, and
these are the...
I think English is a little bit easier than Chinese.
Well, I think it depends on your background. So if you're coming from a background which is closer to the Asian roots, then Chinese might be easier for you than English. For us, obviously, English is easier. But yeah, I don't think necessarily for all the people, English is the straightforward choice.
I see.
I just think for some people, Chinese might be easier.
Yeah, you're right, actually. And then, how long did you in Australia for?
Just I think 3.5 months. So it was a short-term project, but still a good experience in trying out myself in living in a different country.
And how are you with Australian slang now?
Now it's a bit faded, but back then when I left, I had a great vocabulary of slang from Australia. And the interesting thing is when you speak to English people or people from the US and use these, like just unintentionally use these slang words, they're just like, what are you saying? So even they don't understand, even not from the context, they don't understand what those mean. So Australians are this really strange people who invented their own language, basically.
And what would you say, what did this experience give you? Did it motivate you to work abroad again, maybe? Or anything else that came to your mind, or that you experienced that changed your life at this point?
It definitely changed my life in at least two aspects. One is the language thing, that, all right, you need to strengthen your English skills if you want to be a successful like entrepreneur or contractor in this marketplace. This was the first change, which I think I would have done anyway. But as I said, these 2 points were the breaking points, which led me to like not just think, but know that I need to do this. Like feel on my skin that without this knowledge, without these skills, you're nothing, basically. And the other thing is, what changed is, you know, people often treat Australia and New Zealand and even the US as these faraway places which are the lands of opportunity, right? They are exotic. They are like, when I told people that, oh, I have this invitation to this thing with Coca-Cola in Australia, they were like, oh, Australia, you make something that will go to Australia? And I'm like, yeah. And I didn't understand back then why do these people think these are so exotic places. And then I went there and confirmed that my thinking was right. So that's just another country with people are living there. People are living the same way as you would in any other place. They just have probably more white sand and palm trees. That's the main difference between like any other country in Australia. And they are open people and like really kind, and you can strike up a conversation on the street with a random stranger. You can do all those things. But I think that's not limited to Australia. Especially now, currently I live in Cornwall in the UK, and it's just the same here. And we have palm trees as well. Maybe the weather is a bit cooler than it was in Sydney or Brisbane, but it's the same feeling. So when I went to Scotland, I spent some time in Glasgow, just a couple of weeks, a couple of years ago, with a client. Even there, what I told my wife, how was it like? I told her that these people are Australians, but they are wearing coats instead of board shorts. That's the difference.
Because they're just as friendly like Australians.
Yeah. They were really kind, speaking a bit of a different weird language. They have their own set of weirdness, the Scottish people, their own slang, of course, but they are very kind people, very nice, most of them anyway, but you can find bad people anywhere, so stupidity is international. But if you don't look for it actively, then you will find that those people are very warm and very helpful, and they just like to be around people, strike up a conversation. You walk into a pub alone, you will have a table with 3 people just talking about anything in 15 minutes and stuff like that. And I think it works the same way down here in the south. Is now we're quite close to the south coast of England, and the difference maybe is that people are even more relaxed here. So no one's in a rush ever.
They can't be rushing because the roads are so tiny that you can't go fast.
Now, I mean, if you would stop on one of those roads, these country lanes, you would stop in the middle of the road and would start a conversation with a stranger walking their dog. The cars behind you would just stop and wait for you to finish the conversation. No honking, no nothing, no fingers, no. They are just, all right, we'll just wait here, fine.
It must be nice to live in an environment which is so relaxed.
Yeah, I think this was one of the aspects why I chose this independent life, because when I started doing my international freelancing work, from that point in time, I never lived in a city, never
Okay.
even close to a city, and always in some weird place. Like I mentioned, I lived in a lake house. Then we moved to an island in the Danube, in the River Danube in Hungary. We moved to an island. And we spent like 2.5 years there.
How interesting.
Before moving to Cornwall, which was another decision, another random decision. So this is the beauty of it, I think, that you can have these random decisions. You can be anywhere in the planet, so you are free to choose. And when we started to think about where to move in England or the UK, actually not even England, the UK, as we had North Wales on the table as well, that nice island, Anglesey. We went there looking at it and quite liked it. Then so literally we chose this place where we live now by coin flip. Literally.
Oh, between what? Cornwall and?
Between Cornwall, we've never been to Cornwall. That's interesting. We've never been to Cornwall. I think we had North Wales. We had Suffolk. Even that might be Norfolk. Yeah, Norfolk Broads, just above Suffolk, where you have those nice rivers and all the green. We had the Lake District, which is Northern England. And we had a fourth one. I can't even remember. I'm not sure. We had a fourth one, but it turned out to be Cornwall. And we asked our son, our 5-year-old son, to, all right, pull out 2 papers from this hat. Let's see what happens. One of them was Cornwall. One of them was, I think, the Lake District. Maybe. All right, then let's do a coin flip. 3 out of 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, Cornwall. That's it. Decision made. Yeah, decision made. What could go wrong? Like, well, what will hurt in Cornwall? Nothing. Let's look at some pictures. Then we looked at some pictures. Yeah, that looks nice. All right, let's try. And then we moved.
And how long did it take you to move from the point of deciding that you're going to move to Cornwall?
Well, from that point, it took, I think, less than 2 months. But we decided that we will move to the UK more than a year before we actually did.
So did you...
In fact, more than 2 years. Sorry, more than 2 years before we actually did.
Okay, and what held you back?
Well, first, when we first decided, there were some problems which we needed to deal with locally, like with our companies and with our like legal stuff. You know, these boring details, which you just need to do locally because you need to be present physically to sign these papers. You need to be present physically to close that bank account. You need to be blah, 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 blah. So this held us back first. And then the second time, so when we said that, all right, now we're done. Okay, we're moving. And then it turned out that my wife is pregnant. So that was happy news. And we decided to wait for the newborn in our old place. And that's why we stayed a year more on that island I mentioned. That was the last one in Hungary. That's why we stayed a year more, basically, to wait for the baby to be born and like not to travel with the 2-day-old baby, of course. So a couple of months. We said 4-5 months old baby is okay for this traveling thing. So we will wait until he is at least 5 months old, and then we will start the thing. So that was the second reason, which is a much better reason than doing some paperwork, of course.
Yes, I agree. And how difficult was it to settle in England, or was it smooth, easy?
I think in England, so in general, I would say settling in England is very smooth. I don't have any issues with that in and of itself, but we had some constraining factors. Those constraining factors were we needed a bigger than usual house. As it turned out, in this part of the country, you have two options which are on two ends of the scale. You either get a 2 or 3 bedroom cottage, which is very nice. I have no issues with that, but I have 3 boys, so 3 children. So obviously we need 4 bedrooms, as each to their own, and we need our own space. So you either get a 2 or 3 bedroom cottage or a 7 bedroom farmhouse. One of them is too small, one of them is too big. There are some offerings on the market which are just what we want, but we have another constraining factor, is we have a dog. And the dog moved with us from Hungary, which was quite an interesting journey. But in the end, she did manage to get to England, to us. But dogs are, so what I don't understand in Cornwall is everyone seemed to be walking around with dogs. 1 dog, 2 dogs, even 3 dogs at some point. Like, there are these couples who walk with their dogs. There are these families who have like 3 or 4 children and 2 dogs. So everyone has dogs. And it seemed like on the property market, all the properties say no pets. Like, no pets. So this was one of the hard points. But here, where we live currently, we managed to convince the owner that, all right, the dog will not be in the house, the dog will be in the garden. Because we are not those people who sleep with their dog and like have breakfast with their dog and do everything with their dog. We are those people who understand that animals are outside, people are inside. And, or at least this is how we understand life. Especially with small children, young children, you just don't have a dog in your living room. And yeah, we managed to convince this owner that this will be okay for them. Luckily, I think this was the hardest part, finding the property. As if you are not, let's say, well acquainted with England, or you don't have a history or some kind of ties to the country already, then you might find it hard convincing the landlord of your creditworthiness. That would be another hard point. For me, this point was easier, as I'm running my company in London for the past 4 years, I suppose. 3-4-ish years. So I had my accountant, I had my clients, I had everyone else who wrote some reference letters, and my accountant confirmed that, all right, the company has this income, and the guy is the only director and owner of the firm, so he will have his income from this company, and he's creditworthy. He's just not a UK resident yet. So that's why I don't have a credit history in the country. But if you are moving to, all right, I will go to this country, I will find a job, I will find a place to live, not necessarily in this order, probably the reverse order. I will find a place to live and I will find a job. That will be hard. That's a catch-22, because until you don't have a job, you don't have a place to rent. But until you don't have a place to rent, you can't have a job. So you're in this circle. Basically, what one of our friends did is found a job for 4 days. Like 4 days, he was delivering some vegetables from some farmer to here and there to their clients, basically. And within those 4 days, he went to the agent, the property agent, and said, all right, I work here and I earn this much per day. And I think this would be sufficient for supporting this property thingy. And they said, well, okay, that's fine. Then you can have the property. So with a 4-day job, he managed to get a property. And of course, he has savings. So it's not like, ooh, how will I pay for this thing which I just rented? He has savings. But for these agents, savings are not enough. So if you demonstrated, all right, I have this many tens of thousands of pounds, that, all right, good for you. We don't care. That's what they say. So this, I think probably these are the hardest parts, maybe. These are the hardest parts if you bear the language. If you are let's say, not that skilled in English, then you might find it hard finding a job or finding places to live, as these people usually need a conversation, some convincing to do. And if you don't have the skill, I mean, the language skill, it might be harder for you. It might not be, as you might be a charming person, which I'm not, but I have the language skill. If you're a charming person and have lesser language skills, that might work as well.
But I assume they want to know who they're letting their house out to, or even for work. They want to know if you can do the job. If, you know, I understand. They basically want to know a little bit more about you, so they want to be able to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that was the luck in it, that towards agents, I already started this communication without even asking. So when we started searching for property, I think we were in the country. First we lived in some Airbnbs here and there, like in the area, but not quite in the area, on the northern coast of Cornwall. And then we came down to somewhere to the middle, and then we lived in another Airbnb later on. But when I started this search, or when we started this search, I often, or I think always, started the communication with the agent before they even asked for it. So it wasn't like, oh, I would be interested in this property. Can you show me this property? I was like, sorry. So I was like, all right, this is our life. This is our family. We are coming from here. And this is our reason for moving to the country. This is what we do. Do you have a property for us? So this is quite different to the usual, oh, do you have an open day for this property in the next couple of days? Or can we book a viewing or something like that? Okay, here's my story. Be the judge. Will the owner like it? If not, don't call me back.
Yeah, that probably saves time. Yeah. Yeah, that probably saves time, because often when you look for a property, you go and see many of them, and 9 out of 10 is actually not suitable for you, or the owner don't want people with children or with a dog, for example.
Yeah, and not just time saving, but I think it tells them that, okay, we can communicate with this person. So we can ask more questions if we want to. And they are not here for burning down our house or destroying it. Maybe that's why we got here in the end, which is quite nice, and to our needs. So this house is just what we wanted. It's much smaller than where we are coming from, but that was one of the key points, as we had a too big house for us on that island. So we deliberately wanted something smaller, because we felt like we are working for the house and not the house is working for us or is there for us. It was the other way around. There were these problems always with machinery, and like it was too big to clean, and the garden was always a mess because that was too big as well. And then we downsized a bit. It's weird to say, all right, we downsized to a 4-bedroom house, but we did, with a smaller garden than the previous one.
So you're obviously enjoying your life now, but what was your first impression of the country and the life in England or in Cornwall?
My first impression, ooh, that's hard. My first impression was about driving, I think, how they drive. So when you, oftentimes, I'm starting from a bit further away, if we still have time, I suppose. Oftentimes, when we lived out in the countryside in Hungary, and oftentimes when needed, I drove into some major city, often the capital, Budapest. I was conversing on the phone with some colleagues and working on things and discussing things while driving, as motorway driving and a headset is just perfect for having a conversation with colleagues whom with it's hard to find time to do that by any other means. So I often did that, and they could, some of them, not all of them, of course, but some of them could perfectly judge when I reached the city, just from the changes of my tone. We were discussing the same thing, technology, how we should build this, how we should build that, what is the best technique for avoiding this security leak, and la 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 la. And they were judging from my voice, from my tone, when I reached the city and started taking part in traffic within Budapest, for example.
So did your voice sound more stressed?
It was, yeah, it seems like yes. I didn't feel stressed, but it seems like I unintentionally did feel stressed, as they said that, all right, you arrived, then let's hang up and continue when you come back out. So the first impression was about driving. When you come here and rent a car, as obviously I don't have my car in England, I just got off this plane, I rent a car and start my journey. We landed in Gatwick and drove down to Cornwall, basically, the first day.
Which is about
300
8 hours
miles.
drive?
Nah, I think it was less than that. Even with, so it would be, in an ideal world, it would be 3.5, 4-ish hours drive. But if you have kids, then I need to pee, I need a drink, I'm hungry, nah, this is the problem, that is the problem. You need to stop like every now and again, every half an hour, different petrol stations, different things. So yeah, I think it took us probably 6.5, including all that. Stop for this, stop for that, let's eat, let's not eat, let's not do this, let's do that. And then during that journey, when you get further and further and further away from London, where it's a bit crazy to drive, to my taste anyway, I can drive in London, I just don't like driving in London, because it's...
No one does.
Yeah, yeah, I understand why. But when we came out and left the surroundings of London, then I started feeling like, okay, everyone is so polite on the road somehow. Like the traffic has this rhythm to it, and everyone feels that rhythm, and they don't do unnecessary things on the road. Like, if I can see that I will not fit there, I won't go there and honk at you and like shout at you and do stuff like that. I'll just, all right, strike up a smile and just go. I have time, just go.
That sounds
and everyone
great.
does that. Everyone is so polite when driving, barring some people. Of course, you can find the occasional idiot who drives like a racer and just doesn't care about the rhythm of traffic. But usually most of the people, like 99.5% of the people, are this polite, like doing this rhythm of traffic. So this was the first impression, which was quite interesting. as I drive, like most of my adult life I've been driving, and I'm a professionally qualified driver as well. So I can basically drive anything which is not in the air or on water and not a tank. And yeah, so it was interesting seeing that most of the things they taught us as professional drivers, like professionally, I was trained by the Hungarian army for driving weird things in weird conditions. Most of the things are just natural for these people here.
How
I don't know
interesting.
if the education, the driving lessons are different over here, or why is this?
Or maybe
But
it's just their attitude.
yeah, maybe it could be their attitude. But yeah, so this was my first impression when moving to England.
And what about your family? Did they like it the first time? How do they feel now? Are you all settled?
Well, yeah, now I can say we are quite settled, yes. I think this move was a bit scarier to them than it was for me. As basically, I am not the type of person who's attracted to things. So I don't care about the house, I don't care about the car, I don't care about the materialistic things in life. I really don't care about. The only exception is my laptop, because I work as a programmer and an information security scientist. So obviously I need a good machine to work with, but that's the only thing I care about, like a materialistic thing I care about. But the rest of it is just whatever. It should be warm. I should be able to have a shower in the house, and that's it. And something green around us. That's what matters, nothing else. So it was a bit scarier for them, because they don't really have the language skills on this level, which is not a problem, as I can mostly cope with all the things. I say mostly because I'm seriously bad in administration, like seriously bad. And when you move to a new country, you obviously need to do these administration tasks, like registering with the GP, having the new dentist for your son, doing stuff like that, like registering for national insurance number, having your address registered in this authority and that authority. And then the water bill came, and then the gas company came and told us weird things about the prices. And so you just need to start immersing yourself in these daily administration tasks, which I'm seriously bad at, like really bad. Never done that, as I always had a lovely wife who could do that. But now she can't, because having a conversation with a person who has an Irish accent on the phone is not within the boundaries of her current English level.
That's even difficult for me. A Scottish Irish accent I can't understand.
Yeah, so that's why. So this was, I think this is a hurdle we're still battling with. But mostly, yes, we're settled. And the other thing, the other hard step, I suppose, was not finding schooling, but settling in for schooling for our now almost 6-year-old son. Finding the school was, I don't know if it was pure luck or what happened there, as we moved here, and I just asked around in the neighborhood, all right, well, which are the good schools in the area? And they said, all right, we have this school in the village. Nah, don't try. But we have this other village here and that other village there, and they have much better schools. Try to get a place. Okay. I was like, okay, jump in the car, first village. We went there. It's one of the interesting thing is we live quite close to the border of Cornwall and Devon. So the two counties in England, Cornwall and Devon. And one of the villages that they mentioned is in Cornwall, and the other one is in Devon. And we went for the first one as, all right, same county, must be easy, quite close. They might have these rules that they are accepting kids from a certain diameter of circle, and yeah, we just go there. All right, we went there. They said, no, we don't have a place in that age group. Sorry, go to some other school. I was like, oops. Okay, then let's try Devon. And we went to Devon, and I started doing the same thing as I mentioned with agents. I called the head teacher and like, all right, we are this family and we did this and we moved here and we want better education for the kids and la 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 la. They don't speak English. Are you up for the challenge? That they don't speak English. And she said, yes, of course. When you want to come in to look around, if you like the school or not. I'm like, wow, today? And they said, yeah, 4:30, fine. We went up. The school is beautiful, like this Victorian building with all the charm and character back from the 1700s. It's like, I love it. And the teachers, I think, out of pure luck maybe, we've got the best teachers I can imagine for this year group. As this woman is just wonderful and treats the lack of language skills wonderfully as well. So what they did, basically, this is a state school. So this is not a private school, which we're talking about now. This is a normal state school in England, somewhere in some small village, right? Random small village state school, Victorian building. The teacher, the class teacher, I mean, when she learned that this foreign kid is coming, she started preparing the class. Like, okay, we will have a new person. That person won't understand the word of what you're saying. So let's try and use other techniques of explaining ourselves, right? And started teaching the kids like 2 weeks prior to our arrival to the school to handle these situations. Because here in this part of the country, not many foreigners live, especially not in villages. So when we start a conversation in Hungarian, which is our native language, they just look like, whoa, who are these people? First, they thought we're Welsh, as my son has this cap from Wales, from that village or city or town, which has the longest name in England, and it's written all over the cap. Something something go go go. And they often thought we're Welsh because we had this Welsh thing. So that's about it. These were the challenges, I think.
That's absolutely amazing that the teacher did this. You know, it's great. This is a proper dedication. Very good. So now you're all settled in England, the kids going to school. Do you think it was all worth it? Would you do anything differently?
Would I do anything differently? Yeah. Well, probably no. Probably no. I think now, so if I could know in advance what could go wrong, then obviously I would do things differently. But if now you would transport me back to the time, then probably I would do the same things. Like the differences, the main differences between what I would do and wouldn't do are around costs.
What do you mean?
So I learned that having an Airbnb is quite costly. I learned that I need to have the Airbnb for longer, for example. I would start off differently, but these are not major things. So when we came here, we had our first place booked for only 2 weeks, thinking that, oh, we will have that property within 2 weeks. No, you won't. It was almost 2 months just getting into the house, which is not a problem. Just so I would prepare differently for that. That would save me some time and money, but nothing else. So nothing major, basically. No, I would do the same things.
And is there anything else that you would advise people before moving to another country? What should they prepare for, maybe?
Well, I think, yeah. I have, don't do your research, because that doesn't work, and just follow your passion. So if you like mountains, then move to the mountains. If you like the sea, then get something coastal. That's it. Just follow your intentions. Don't be stressed out by the move. Like most people, I think, doing this thing like, ooh, will it be good? Would that city be better, or this city, or this town, or should it be closer to the coast or further away from the coast? Just whatever. Like, this is not a changing factor in your life. If you like to see the sea, get something coastal within your budget, of course. So the only thing to consider is what is your budget for the move, and what is your budget for keeping it up long term. That's the only factor. And apart from that, what you enjoy, that's what you should do, nothing else. This is my advice. So if you do too much research, then you won't move. And the other thing, which I quite like to say, is go before you don't.
Good
That's
advice.
it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for telling us all about your experiences. I'm going to say goodbye to you now. I hope everyone who listened got some information out of this, got some ideas, and I'll have a good day.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Bye.
Bye-bye.